So this woman who is, if he doesn't want to marry his brother's wife, so if the brother has a mitzvah to marry his brother's wife, whose brother passed away without any children, to keep the family name going, to keep the children that will be born to be connected to the first husband. The Torah says that she removes his shoe, and that she spits him. So what is this idea of removing his shoe? The Sefer Chinuch says the following: this woman was fit to serve. One of the things a wife does for a husband, she serves the husband, right? The wife goes ahead, she prepares food for the husband, she does the cooking for the husband. There's a lot of things of servicing the husband. The husband provides for the house, the husband takes care of the financials, but she does, and he does not want. Morning, Mr. Safdie. Morning. And she does not want to marry her. So what does she do? She doesn't act. Morning, Mr. Safdie. She doesn't act, which would be an act that shows an act of service. She removes the shoe. You know, when someone removes somebody's shoe, you know, if someone's tired, you know, and someone takes off their shoe, it's a very you're taking care of that person. Morning, Jaime.
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Haber. So we are explaining, Mr. Batesh. Let's add a question. Mr. Batesh asked, what's the idea? We mentioned chalitza yesterday as one of the women that's forbidden to a Kohen, a lady who went through the process of chalitza, where she removed the shoe of her brother-in-law who did not want to marry her. So Mr. Batesh's question was, what is the idea perhaps behind this mitzvah of removing his shoe? It's a very interesting type of act to be done. So the Sefer Chinuch suggests this woman who is the brother's wife, who now falls to Yibum, is now tied to the brother-in-law, and she can't marry anybody else unless the guy marries her or does chalitza, really is fit to serve her brother-in-law, to become a wife. And a wife, one of the things we said a wife does to the husband is she serves the husband in certain ways. And this is and by taking off his shoe, it's an act of service. When somebody takes off your shoes, and that's a sign that she is ready. She is someone that's fit to serve this man. She's showing that, and she is connected to this man. She is supposed to be doing these type of things for her husband, taking care, providing for the husband, but he doesn't want to do this mitzvah. The brother doesn't want to do this mitzvah, and therefore, what does she do as a result of that? She spits in front of him, and she shows that she's not any longer, she's not connected to this person. She does not need to give honor to this person. You know, a way of honor is when you take off somebody's shoe and you're showing you're taking care of them. Like my father, Olav Shalom, he said after a long day's work, his sister used to take off his shoes. That's an act of service. But the man who doesn't want to marry his sister-in-law when he has a mitzvah, so she's showing that she's really designated to serve him, and now he does not want to do it. So therefore, the spit in front of him shows you, I am not connected. I am not here now anymore to serve you because you are not interested in marrying me. And therefore, you're like a stranger, and I'm not giving you kavod, honor. Of course, you don't spit in front of anybody in general face or in front of them. But that's what the Sefer Chinuch explains a little appreciation of what's the taking off the shoe. Okay. let's see. If you have to look back in the Gemara Kedushin, where it talks about some of the honor a child has for a parent, it could be that the Gemara might say one of the things. One of the things is you get your parents dressed. That's one of the things that you. That's a way of honoring your parents. And you have to look back if it talks about taking off shoes, these type of things, which is a sign of respect and honor. Okay, back to what.
That doesn't make sense. She takes off the shoes and it's like, wow, this is great, but now it's over.
No, it's not great. It's showing that she was here.
She takes off his shoes and spits in him.
Well, she takes off the shoe and
She's getting in. She's out.
right. So you're saying
showing that she's going to be subservient to him.
I'm ready to be served to you. I'm here to be served to you, but you don't want it. So it's like here, like this is what I'm ready to do. I'm ready to be a wife. Of course, if if he would do that, I presume before the chalitza. I think it said once the chalitza was done, we'd have to look at the Gemaras exactly. Usually these type of things require witnesses. Generally speaking, he just says he doesn't want to marry her. The brother-in-law does not want to marry her, and so then they have to go through this process. Okay. It's called chalitza. The main part, I would think the main part is the removal of the shoe. But again, we have to see the halachot. What happened if, what's the law if the spit, how important is the spitting in front of him showing? They make a statement. This is what we do to a man who doesn't want to build the brother's house. So really, it would sound like from the language of the pasuk that the spitting in front of him is like saying, look, this is what we do to somebody who had an opportunity to do a great mitzvah and he doesn't want to do it. So we go ahead and we're showing how low it is that a person did not take advantage of an opportunity that he was able to do. That's what it would seem like.
What if he's 18 and he's 30? It's
okay, but it's still okay as long as the cable. Okay, it could be that this type of marriage might be more of a marriage, the focus of having children. All marriages are supposed to have a concept of having children. That's basic. Sometimes people get married when they're very old, but the general younger marriages, one of the main reasons to get married is to have children. That's one of the main reasons to get married. Of course, there's more to marriage than just children, but I would say it's such a situation. If let's say he's younger than
Morning, Rabbi.
One of you say, but his focus should be okay. Maybe she's a few years, 10 years older than him, but still, if she has an opportunity to have children with her, and then to be mature adults, to have children and to live happy and to make it work. The Torah put you together. Now make it work. It might not be the normal situation, but you have an opportunity, so make it work. Okay, now we're back to the Gemara on the Mishnah on Yud Gimel and Aleph on 13a. The art scroll most probably it's 13a4 or 13a5. 13a5. The last thing we said yesterday was a grusha. We made a contrast between an almana and a woman who was an almana and a grusha. She was a widow and a divorcee, and a woman who was a divorcee and a chalutza who had this act of removing the husband's shoe. We explained that if a woman, almana or grusha, if she was a widow, she was previously married and then her husband died. Then she married a second time and she got divorced from the second husband after she got remarried after the first husband passed away. So now she has, for Kohen Gadol, there are two different prohibitions for him to marry this woman. One prohibition is he's not allowed to marry a divorcee, like every other Kohen. And one, he's not allowed to marry a widow. He's unique. The Kohen Gadol, the high priest, is the only one who can't marry a widow. And this one act, if he marries her and he has relations with her, that one act he will be obligated violating two prohibitions at the same time, simultaneously, because she has two titles. She has two no-nos. One no-no is that she's a divorcee, which he's not allowed to marry. Second no-no is that she's a widow, with the Kohen Gadol can't marry. So in this one woman, when he goes and he marries, has relation with her, he's violating two prohibitions at one shot. In this one woman, and he's obligated two sets of lashes. However, the Mishnah says, if she's a gerusha and a chalutza, if this woman was married, she was married to one, she was divorced. And then after she was divorced, she married a second man. And then after the second husband died and they had no children. And then her brother-in-law did the act of chalitza, she removed his shoe. The brother-in-law did not want to marry her. So now she has two titles. She has her history. Her history is that she was divorced from one husband and she was chalitza. The other husband did not want to marry her. The brother-in-law did not want to marry her. And so she has two titles. And then a Kohen is not allowed to marry either a woman who was either a woman who had only one of these titles, either a divorcee or a chalutza or this act of chalitza. This woman has two titles, but being that these two titles come from one prohibition, one losas. There's a don't marry. The idea, Torah says openly don't marry a divorcee. It does not say openly don't marry a woman. A Kohen can't marry a woman who had chalitza done to her. It's only learned out from a drash, from an extra word. So being there's only one statement of the Torah, don't marry, which covered both of those women. So therefore, we're only going to give him one set of lashes. He's violating one lo sase, one don't do. That's
what about awusa?
What do you say?
What about awusa?
I mean, arusa is a woman who is a man who betrothed the woman. That's called an arusa. That's called an arusa.
So let's say I got awusa, and the man that the arus went for a war and he died. So she's not awusa anymore, and she's allowed.
She was a married woman, but the fact that she was an arusa is that they give the husband would give her a let's say a ring. Before he gives her a ring, he says, "I am marrying you with this ring." Like what we do by the chuppah, an arusa is giving the ring and saying, "Hari'at ukudeshet li v'tabad zu." That's an arusa. She's married. She's she's not married to the sense that she did not do chuppah. He did not sleep with her. That that level they didn't have, but she's considered a married woman. Now, the Gemara continues. The Mishnah continues. Hatamei she'achal es hakodesh. You have somebody that was tamei, somebody that was contaminated. So the Torah forbids someone who's contaminated to eat something that is holy. To eat, let's say, a korban, an offering. You can't be tamei, you can't be unclean when you eat an offering. That's why, by the regel, by the Yom Tov, many have a custom before the 3 regalim to go to the mikveh. Many men have a custom today before Sukkot, before Pesach, before Shavuot to go to the mikveh. If you'll ask how many times a year does a man go, what's the custom for men going to the mikveh? It seems to me it's a universal custom to go, at least by the Ashkenazim, before Yom Kippur. For Yom Kippur, Yom Kippur, that's the universal custom they go. Rosh Hashanah also seems to be a very common custom. Those 2 times a year are the common customs for a man to go to the mikveh. But it's also brought down that before each regel, also there's a concept. It's not a universal custom, but many people do it because in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, they had to be tahor. You had to be clean, pure, in order to eat from the korban. To come to the Beit HaMikdash, you can't enter certain spots. You can't eat korbanot if you're tamei. Therefore, by
every day
would remove many. There's certain tumah, there's certain contaminations that were removed by the mikveh. There's certain contaminations the mikveh won't remove. If a person became contaminated with a dead body, mikveh is not going to do the trick. You need the ashes of the paraduma. But many levels of contamination are removed by going to the mikveh. So here we have someone who was tamei, someone who was not clean, she'achal es hakodesh. If he eats from the korbanot, that is a violation. The Torah says you cannot do it. There's karet for such a person, and there's also, the Mishnah says there will be lashes, there will be malkut for such a person who was, as Mr. Safdie says, he was warned, says, sir, you are tamei, you are unclean, you cannot go ahead and eat these korbanot. And he said, I don't care, I'm tamei, I want to eat it anyways. He violates the warning in front of two witnesses, they'll give him lashes. V'haba el hamikdash tamei. And someone who comes to the mikdash, someone enters the Beit HaMikdash and he's tamei. So that's another strong prohibition. If someone comes to, it's also karet, if he comes to the Beit HaMikdash when he's tamei, and also that's also will get lashes as well, even though he didn't eat anything. His mere coming to the Beit HaMikdash, good morning, Simon. The mere coming to the Beit HaMikdash in the status of Tumah, morning is, will get correct. You know, in today's day and age, this is there's a lot of practical halacha on this. Today, when people, there are different tours there by the Temple Mount and almost all the Gedolim, pretty much all the Gedolim, everybody's screaming against people going to these places, the Chafetz Chaim, Rav Yosef, all the great rabbis all say people shouldn't be, there's certain spots that people should not be going because the holiness of the Beit HaMikdash remains forever. So even though the Beit HaMikdash is destroyed, you can't go to these certain places that are holy in that status of contamination. So there was one rabbi that made an allowance against all the other rabbis, and it created a lot of problems. And therefore, people have to be very careful, even though they're giving tours that you have to make sure that be careful, find out what the general accepted halachic opinion is, to know where you're allowed to go and where you're not allowed to go. So beware of any of these tours by Temple Mount or those areas, because that's this halacha. Mikdash tamei. Person, because we're all tamei, we all consider ourselves tamei today. If a person goes to the mikdash tamei, the punishment is very serious. Tamei shachas hakodesh. When he's tamei, even if he's eating in Yerushalayim, let's say kachikalim, let's say korban shlamim. You bring a korban shlamim, you eat it. You have the whole Yerushalayim to eat the korban shlamim. And then if you ate it in the status of tumah, there's this punishment. Okay. Now, v'ochel chelev. Morning. There are certain fats in an animal that you're not allowed to eat. And by the way, therefore, when they slaughter an animal, certain parts of the animal today, we don't eat certain parts of the animal because it's very hard to get those fats out. You have to be. My father, alav hashalom, dealt with meat, and he was excellent in knowing how to get out whatever fats that the custom is to remove. I mean, other fats they don't even bring to the butcher shop because it's too difficult. But he was, there's laws of knowing and which fats to remove. My father's yahrzeit was yesterday. Here I'm mentioning him today. So the fats to get rid of those fats is a serious thing, and today, the butchers don't do it in the butcher shop. They do it in the factory, in the old, wherever they process, when they do thousands of pounds. In the old days, every butcher, one of the basic things that a butcher did was removing certain fats that were forbidden, besides soaking and salting the meat. Today, it's no longer done in the regular mom and pop shop. It's done in a much more broader place. So that's for ochel chelev, the prohibition of eating fat, which carries with it also karet, heavy punishment for eating the forbidden fats. V'dam, also blood. Eating blood is also karet. Blood that comes out of an animal, and if someone eats that blood, the Torah says don't eat blood. It mentions it many times, and and that would be correct, eating the blood. Notar, and that's one of the reasons why we soak and salt the meat. Point of soaking and salt the meat will get rid of the blood. Whatever blood that will come out comes out. If you ever saw the pail of water, they soak it for a half hour, and then they salt it for an hour. And when they soak it, after they finish soaking, when they remove the meat, the pail, the color of the water is totally red, and then that's just and then when you salt it also brings out the blood. You wash it off afterwards, and that's the dam. That's the prohibition of
They have
dam.
a steak that is like raw,
But even if a steak is raw, if once it was soaked and salted, that's not because we look at that's like juices that that's not blood. As long as you have a proper beginning of a proper place that does proper soaking and salting with a proper supervision. You know what I'm saying? If it's a proper supervision, then they should have done a proper job removing the blood by the soaking and salting process. That's the process of soaking and salting. Is that clear? V'notar. Notar is the Torah says, don't leave over. Let's say the Torah says, don't leave over to the morning the korban. Let's say you have the korban Pesach. You have to eat it. You have to eat it. You have to, there's a question if you eat it by midnight or the whole night, but you can't leave it over to the morning. Or other korbanot, the Torah talks about, there's a specific time that you're supposed to eat it by, and has to be finished. You can't leave it over to the morning. So that's called notar, and you're not allowed to eat notar. You can't eat what was left over to the morning. The Torah says don't leave over to the morning. The Torah also says if you left it over, you burn it. For leaving it over, you will not get lashes, because the Torah tells you how to fix it by burning it. But for eating, the Mishnah is saying for eating the leftover korban that was left, which should not have been left, if for eating it, carries with it lashes. Lashes and correct. And this also be correct. Yes, Torah says it's also correct. What? No, but there's two different sins. One sin is to leave it over to the morning. Torah says don't leave it over to the morning. There's no correct if you left it over. You were inactive. There's no correct, and also there's no lashes if you just left it over to the morning. Lav Shem B'Maaseh, and also the Torah tells you how to fix it up. But if you ate the leftover, Mr. Safdie, the Mishnah is now talking about eating, not just leaving over. Eating the notar, that carries correct. That carries malchut. Eating the korban that was left over to the morning, which should not have been left over to the morning. Morris, is that clear? Okay. Mr. Safdie, is that clear? Now, next case is pigul. Pigul is a korban, is an offering that came invalid with the wrong mindset. It's an amazing concept that the mindset, your thought, is so powerful. If you slaughter the korban, and you haven't slaughtered the korban, or you catch the blood, or you sprinkle the blood, if you do it, one of those main type of things that you need to do in a korban, let's say one of the things you have to do is slaughtering the animal or sprinkling the blood. If you had a mind to do, when you did this action of slaughtering, you had in mind, I'm going to slaughter this animal, but I'm going to eat it, let's say, outside more than the prescribed time that I'm allowed to eat it. I have in mind to eat it, not to follow the instructions of the Torah. The Torah says that this korban has a certain amount of time, and I have in mind I'm going to eat it past the allotted time. Well, the Torah says I have that's a type of example. That's one of the examples. I have in mind the wrong mindset when I slaughter the animal, or I bring up I'm sprinkling the blood on the mizbech. I have in mind I want to do something wrong with this korban. Specific things. I want to eat it out. One of the things is I want to eat it outside the prescribed time that I'm allowed to eat it. So just having mere wrong mindset, wrong machshava, I'll tell you what they say over here. They say, one of the things that make one of the acts that generally makes the korban kosher, you had in mind that you're going to, let's say, bring the offering on the mizbeach, or sprinkle the blood, or eat its flesh after the time that's worthy. Let's say I'm allowed to bring the korban. I have a certain amount of time to bring the offering up. Once I slaughter it, I have a certain amount of time. Good morning, Dave, to put it on the altar. I had in mind I'm going to do it longer than the time I'm allotted to bring it on the altar, or eat it longer time than I'm allotted. So that would go ahead and invalidate the korban, the wrong mindset. So therefore, in halacha, they talk about the fact that we find that your davening is supposed to be instead of the korban. When we're coming to pray today, we're coming to pray shachrit, right? And we're going to have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, that the musaf, all the korban, each davening represents, what is musaf? Musaf means the extra. There's an extra korban that was brought on the holiday. That's why it's called musaf. Why do you have musaf on Shabbat? You don't have musaf today. Why is musaf on Shabbat? For Shabbat, there was an extra offering. On Rosh Chodesh, there was an extra offering. That's why it's called what? That's why we pray what? Musaf. And our prayers are instead of the what? Of the korban, instead of the offering. So just like if they made an offering, if you had the wrong mindset when you did the offering, it invalidates the offering. So too, if you pray with the wrong mindset, your mind's not there, you're thinking the wrong things, that also would have a possibility to invalidate the prayer. So therefore, we have certain laws in halacha that we try to mirror the way they brought an offering. And therefore, the same way the offering was done with the right mindset, how vital it was, so too, we need to go ahead and make sure that our prayers also are not have the wrong mindset. Now, v'tamei, the next case is v'tamei v'hashochet umale b'chutz. So what is this case? If you eat something that was tamei, until now we've been talking about a person being tamei and eating a korban, right? If you're tamei, you can't enter the temple. If you're tamei, you can't eat a korban or offering. You can't when you are tamei. Now there's a different prohibition. If the offering itself became tamei, the offering became contaminated. So there's a prohibition for you to eat the offering when the offering is in a state of tumah. So that is the case. So the tamei, that's the case. There'll be lashes for such a thing if you ate something that's tamei. V'hashochet umale b'chutz. There's a certain place that you need to slaughter the korban. So let's say you're slaughtering a korban shlamim or a korban pesach, and you slaughter it outside the prescribed area of the courtyard. You went outside the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash, or you brought the korban outside the proper place, not in the right place. So that would carry with it lashes. Okay, they're about to pray right now, and hopefully everybody will be careful of Zocha. By learning about it, will sensitize us to all these mitzvot. Have a great day, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
But this
Thank you, Rabbi.